Greetings and salutations to all you folks out there. We're going to be looking at a 1 versus 1 on Setton's Clutch today. This is between Ryfun and Turambar. And I know that last time I was calling for more replays. A lot of you guys answered that call. I'm sitting on several good ones at the moment that I'll be able to cast in the next week or so. But I'm still going to ask. Please continue to send me replays. I always need fresh ones to look through and things to pick because you want a variety. You don't want to see the same thing every single time. All right, this is going to be somewhat of a long one. Sit back, relax, grab a drink. Get ready for this epic action. Let's go ahead and look at the early builds on these guys. It is a UEF versus Cybran matchup. Cybran on the north side and UEF on the south. We've got Land Factory with second air for Turambar. And one thing to mention about this, if you typically see a front slot on a Setton's game, you think, oh, the ACU is going to immediately run to the middle and grab the mass. Not so on this, because you do not have a team backing you up, building mass, overflowing power, that kind of thing. You've got to get your base established before you make a run for it. So Ryfun is also going first land, second air, building his secondary mass extractors with an engineer, getting one out to reclaim for extra power. Tree clumps are an awesome source of power. I get this question a lot. How do you get the attack move order from the factory? Alt right click from the factory. That is the answer, good sirs. And yeah, south side is looking about the same. Turin is building a couple more P-gens, not too many, but a couple more. And of course, we do have some mana reclaim going down in the back. And I'm sure very soon we'll be seeing a run for the Hydro. So, Air Factory is going to allow for a transport build, a bomber build, whatever you very well need. Setton's is a big map, and you're going to need to spread out quickly in order to maintain control of it. So a transport's a good idea to get engineers to the back and sides. Although I'm thinking with the aggression on this power build and the tree reclaim over here, all of this is pointing to a bomber. Yes, there it is. Bomber first out of the Air Factory. That'll be in the air by 2:45. And on the south side, we don't even have an Air Factory started yet. So that bomber is probably going to get in a couple of good swings before it gets down. If I were Turin, I would definitely start with an interceptor. What you sitting on there, bud? Scout, interceptor, transport, 3 interceptors. I think you might run into a couple of problems there. That bomber is already out and halfway across at the 3-minute mark. The ACU has left the base. It's going to be walking down, shooting for some of this reclaim, and we do have the other ACU coming up as well. This bomber moving out to the left side, looking for expansioneers. Now, killing the expansions is going to be absolutely critical on this, because if you knock out an engineer this far away, it is going to be 2 to 3 minutes before you can bring another engineer to the area, especially if the transport that dropped the engineers off get killed. You either got to walk, or you've got to build another transport to carry them. I do like the tanks up at the front that killed off the early aggression, the Mantis that would have run across. Holy mother of land factories, that is a lot of build power going down. Holy cow. Transport dropping pairs of NGs. There's one to the beach slot, one going back to the air slot. This scout is probably going to pick up the transport. ACU biting into those tanks there. I do believe Ryfun is going to get the advantage on this mass in the front. It may not work out so well for Turambar, but we'll just have to see how well he can recover from this. The bomber is out, headed around. Maybe he'll see those. Yes, he is headed in that direction, but the factory is complete, so he's not going to be able to deny that expansion, although he may very well kill those engineers. If he leaves the bomber back there, he could probably lock the land factory, but the interceptors are going to knock it out of the air before he can accomplish that. Locking the land factory, every faction's land factory, as far as I know, is not able to protect the unit inside from the AoE of a bomber. So basically the unit starts building however long it has been building, so that's 25%, 50% health. The bomber will do damage to the unit inside the factory as if it had already been built. If it depletes it to 0, well, the factory resets and starts building again. There's a bomber out here. There's 4 engineers on this transport. The transport has not dropped yet. Got to keep an eye on those ACUs over there. Look at this. The transport registers as a land unit because it is resting. The bomber bombs the transport and kills all the engineers on board with the AoE. How's that for drop denial? Drop denial with a bomber. Good dealio. Turin throwing down a land factory. He's got a point defense online, which was honestly a good idea. It's going to keep Ryfun over to his side of the map. But there are Medusas. Medusas are going to be a little bit of a pain to deal with because they do stun the point defense when they hit it, but that is going to get pulled back as more Mantis move up to the front to deal with things. Another bomber still. I think that's bomber number 3 for Ryfun, hanging out offshore. Have to see what he goes after. Probably waiting for another engineer to land over there. Turin is going to fall back just a little bit. He is currently sitting on 5,300 reclaim and Ryfun on 3,000. So Turin edging ahead at least momentarily. But Ryfun still has access to the 3 destroyer wrecks and multiple T3s across the neck. So I think he's going to pretty much claim all of those for himself. Here comes bombers number 4 and 5 and 6. Pouring those things out of the factory, sending them towards the south side. Like I said, engineer denial is everything. He's going to wing his way down south, try to pick up that engineer on 3 mass extractors on that side. And already we're seeing Turambar struggling a little bit under the weight of the Mantis coming down from the north side. That is a lot of land factories. Ryfun up to 70-something income. 74, I believe, was a steady number. And he is still pulling in a lot of reclaim. He is running, at the moment, 22 land factories and 3 air factories pushing T1 units to the south side. Why do you even need T2 if you can generate this many Mantis? Now, the problem here is that once you break the neck, if you force the ACU back from the neck, you're going to be able to spread out and skirt whatever forces are sent out to defend. So that creates major, major problems for the player who's trying to hold back the onslaught. Bombers down here still causing a few problems, but a couple of interceptors patrolled in the area will solve the problem. I think everything down there will turn out fine. Turin falling behind in mass income, but he does have more power, which is going to let him abuse overcharge quite heavily. The wall sections are also an awesome idea because it's going to choke off the flow of units. That comment that I made a little bit earlier about the choke point in the neck being advantageous, basically Turin is trying to replicate that down here. Even if he can't completely choke off the flow of units, he is going to screw up the pathfinding, and that's going to slow down all of the units coming in and allow him a little bit of extra time to prepare. Turin already got 1 veterancy on his commander, up to 30 kills there, about to crack open a second can of veterancy, bump up his health and regen even more. There's a drop on the island. 4 engineers out there. Burning up a lot of his APM over here, though. You'll notice that a few areas of the map are somewhat neglected. He has yet to respond to this. He's got idle interceptors. He is not queuing units super well. But you know what? When you have a crisis of this proportion on the front lines, I can absolutely understand not being able to take full advantage of all of your units on the back end of the map. That ACU fighting like a champ. 2nd veterancy up to 50 kills already, and he has gotten T2 out. There are pillars now on the field. Those are going to be able to stem the tide of Mantis to a certain degree, but he has to build up a critical mass of the T2 tanks first, and the Medusas are still going to give him great pains because Medusas do stun the T2 tanks. Takes them out of commission for a couple of seconds. The Mantis get a couple of seconds extra damage dealt, and it levels the playing field quite well between T1 and T2. Small pack of Mantis and a Scout moving over to the left-hand side. Those are going to cause quite a few issues over here, knocking out some mass extractors, forcing a re-expansion. But bombers are in the area to take care of them. Same thing on the south side. Too bad that point defense did not finish. T1 point defense in most of the expansions would not be a bad idea at the moment. If you had like 1 point defense there, 1 point defense there, just a couple of point defense scattered around in order to protect clumps of mass extractors, I think you could probably justify the mass expense at this point in the game. Still trying to stem the tide at the neck up here. Turin locking down a group of Mantis. I am not sure if that is him stalling the group or if Ryfun is trying to clump his units for another onslaught. Probably the latter. But one way or another, we do have a beautiful clump of Mantis and Medusas right up here. Overcharge would have been awesome right there. Probably could have killed 6 or 7 units at one time. Bombers still dropping on the Mantis on the south side, but they are still going to cause problems. 3 more mass extractors down and another one to go if those bombers are not able to clean up that mess. Lost most of the mechs on this side. 69 mass per tick income versus 109 for Ryfun. Ryfun is looking very, very secure at this point in the game. He's got just about his entire side locked down. He is choking Turambar to death in the middle here with just this huge horde of T1 units, and Turambar is going to have his work cut out for him to recover from this one. Let's see what the factory count is on this side so far. Ryfun is sitting on approximately 34 land factories, and he's dropped 2 more air factories since we looked last. 13,000 reclaim, running 1,500 power, and I don't think he's even gone T2 yet. Has he? No, he has not. He has built 1,500 income worth of T1 power generators, and he's also dropped naval factories on both sides of the map. He is going to take full advantage of his superior income, if I can untangle my tongue to find the proper wording there. Even if you think a game is won, even if you think that you're making great progress on one front, you should always do your best to exploit every possible resource. At the moment, Navy is definitely a resource, because if you can take naval control with very little expenditure, like we're about to see happen here, then you have an impressive tool to use later in the game once you can put your cruisers and battleships to work pounding the shores in on this side of the map. Mantis have broken the front line. We've got 2 factories down, 2 support factories. That is no small loss for Turambar. He is trying desperately to keep his build power online, and every time he seems to be making headway against these T1 forces, they just group up and attack again and break through the front lines. Although we now have, I think, the critical mass of pillars necessary to break this. Maybe. Turambar moving back up. Got 4 veterancy on his commander, 29 kills to go for vet number 5. That means that he's not going to be able to gain a whole lot of health back on his ACU. Could be good. You could say it's good because he's killed more than his share of units with that ACU, but it's also bad because he's going to lose that ability to overcharge himself out of a death or a killer situation, I should say. Much less death-defying to be had when you do not have any veterancy to draw on. 4 Mantis in the back, going to kill off a couple of mass extractors. We have our first frigates hitting the shore on both sides nearly simultaneously, and look at how little build power there is in the back. Ryfun secure in his knowledge that he is pushing Turambar so hard that he is not going to be able to punch back. He has not even laid down land factories in the backs or sides of this map. I take that back. There's one right over there, but it is not very centrally located. That is kind of a mistake. I would definitely get at least 1 land factory down back here, just for the sake of being able to spam engineers, because you can reclaim the trees if nothing else. Ryfun getting the stealth upgrade there. What else have you got in your back pocket, buddy? Just the stealth, and he is not getting any other upgrades. So he is just doing that for the survivability that it brings to the commander. I am seeing many fewer Mantis than I saw just a moment ago, and quite a substantial amount of pillars. I think that Turambar has probably hit critical mass. I think he's going to be able to push back into the neck with this. There are no longer going to be enough T1 units in any one spot to deny this weight of mass in pillars. And once he breaks that, moves through the neck, he's going to be able to start eating this build power in the back end here. Now, what have we got going on here? We have a lot of paused factories. That's a T2 power generator going down, one of many more to come, and a T2 air factory. Still no T2 land, still relying on the T1. Very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen T1 spam extending all the way to 20 minutes where we don't even have, never mind, I take it back, there's the T2 upgrade, immediately shifting to T3. He is going to skip the T2 land phase entirely, moving straight up to what I imagine will be loyalists, because you're going to need loyalists very quickly to react to what is coming. I don't know, maybe he could get enough bricks out, I'm not entirely sure. The flow of units is going to slow down tremendously now, but he has bought himself enough time, I think, for that T3 upgrade to come about. Now the strikers are going to, the pillars, excuse me, are going to start moving up the middle though. So it's a race against time. Can the pillars reach the T3 HQ before there's enough loyalists to kill all of the pillars? That is the question here. T2 gunship online for Turambar as well. He has gone for the T2 air factory, only able to knock one mechs out before that gunship goes down. Unfortunately, did not have his air cover over there with him to cover that gunship. A little bit of a critical error there, but we're not going to rip on him too hard because he has a lot to focus on. That T2 is in the back. One thing to remember, UEF T2 gunships do have a docking clamp, so you're able to transport units should you so desire. T1 point defense down is going to take care of at least one pillar. In HP anyway, heavily damage a couple of different pillars. Oh, yep, it did. It got the kill right there. But we now have a clump of 7 loyalists, and that is going to continue to grow. 7 T3 units. I think this is a sufficient number to take out that grouping. They're going to lose a lot in the process, and there is no way that they're going to make it back into the build power to eliminate that factory. So Ryfun has pulled a perfect T3 shift. He's going to kill all this T2 and then reclaim those Sons of Guns to get that mass recycled into shiny new tanks on his side. Let's take a look here. Turambar sitting on 34,000 reclaim, thanks in large part to the T1 units that were dumped on his side of the map. On the other side, we have 24,000. So 10,000 reclaim ahead and very nearly equal on power. Where have we got T2 P-Gens going down? Nowhere? There they are right there. ACU is building them. ACU does have T2. Speaking of T2, there are Salems in the water. Destroyers doing their work on the build power in the back end. There were some more gunships on this side, eliminating quite a few mass extractors, and air control now belongs to Turambar. He has got quite the quantity of interceptors on that side of the map. T2 gunships going to successfully knock out a Salem, but not before the honestly relatively impressive anti-air on the Salem was able to take out one of the gunships. No, none of the destroyers have a huge amount of AA, but the Salem does have a disproportionate amount compared to the other factions, especially when you couple it with the superior AA of the frigates. The Cybern frigates are honestly a thing of beauty. If you have a clump of 5 or 6 of them, something like this grouping right here, they can even kill a few torpedo bombers before all of them die. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4? Yes. Easily 3 or 4 torp bombers would die to that clump of ships, only having taken out a couple of frigates. So, Loyalists moving forward, this is a little clump of death, a whole lot of mass packed into one spot, and more Loyalists moving out from the back end. We're going to need a T3 shift in kind to survive that. There it is. The mighty Percival has hit the field. It's going to move up to the front line and start beating back. Well, I say beating back. The Loyalists are already fleeing in front of all of these pillars, although more reinforcements are coming in by the minute, and they're slowly pushing back against this force. Lots of Loyalists, lots of them coming out. Looks like that's a T2 factory building flak. Smart of you to do, good sir. I don't know. I'd probably shift maybe 5 to support factories and then Control K and reclaim the rest of those. Get that mass back that I invested in all of those factories. Over here on this side, we now have a cruiser, which is going to make life a bit more difficult. You're not going to be able to fly out with a couple of gunships and eliminate that cruiser. You're going to need 6 or 7 gunships or 5 torpedo bombers to knock that cruiser out. I know I've said it in the past, but I'm not sure how recently. It is a good tip nonetheless. If you're versus a cruiser, you need to save up 5 torpedo bombers and send them all at once. If you send less than 5, the cruiser will vet off of killing the T2 units. If you send them one at a time, the cruiser kills each one in one pass and vets faster than the torps can kill it. So you don't want to do that. Always save up 5 torpedo bombers and go after the cruiser. It guarantees a kill in one pass. Usually, even if there's 2 cruisers, all 5 will get their bombs dropped, and you'll kill one of the cruisers, and then you can save up some more and kill the other. Uneven terrain is a real bother sometimes. That cruiser not quite able to arc over the hill there, and by not quite, I mean, oh, it's so very close. But those factories are relatively safe for the moment. A T3 mobile artillery might not be a bad idea. In fact, there is one for the other side. Trebuchet already on 1 veterancy, raining fire down upon these T2s. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage to any one individual unit, but it does a tremendous damage to groups because of the huge area of effect. Percival's moving up to the front, though. Those will be able to kill that off rather easily. And then once a lot of Percivals hit the field, there's going to be some serious issues for Ryfun, who is not going to be able to deny a mass Percy build with bricks. Going to have to move to something a little more potent. T1 bombers raiding in the back end, and a Salem walking up on land in order to hit these mechs that are further back. Ryfun is now at a disadvantage. 203 mass income versus 262, mostly thanks to the T3 mechs in the back end. There are no T3 mechs in the back end here. Still got some T1 scattered around, and has not started capping his mass extractors at all. It is strictly standalone T2 mechs, and this is every indication of an eco whore right here. You've got all of this going on in the front line, all of this chaos scattered about the map. Nope, I'm not going to focus on any of that. I got to have T3 mechs in the back end. Otherwise, this game is pointless. Loyalists moving in, swarming over the Percivals. This is actually what you want to do with Loyalists. You want to get in very, very close. That EMP stun is brutal. Every time a Loyalist dies, all of the Percivals stop firing for a few seconds. That buys a huge damage advantage. Salem moving up. It's not a bad idea to have a Salem. Salem do outrange the Ravager by just a couple of ticks. So even if you have a T3 ACU throwing down Ravagers to keep back hordes of T3, you're going to be able to slowly eat into those bases with the Salems. The disadvantage is that they are quite stationary. They do not move very quickly. Even T3 mobile artillery moves faster, so they're quite susceptible to fast-moving units. But on the other hand, they are super beefy. They don't die in one pass to bombers like the T3 mobile artillery do. T2 Torp bombers trying to gain an upper hand on the South Navy. So far, there is no Navy for Turin Bar, and it looks like he's about to lose the one island in his control. Actually, it looks like he did control the other island as well, and I did not notice it, but a destroyer knocked that one out. Same thing happening right over here. Ryfun still sitting on the stealth upgrade only. And so far, not a whole lot of aggression has been had, other than those gunships going over to this side for Turin Bar. So, he is starting to lose some of the mexes over here. I think I am going to rescind my earlier statement about the ecoing, because I do believe Turin Bar has realized something. He has realized that he does not control either navy. He's not going to be able to hold on to the two side bases, and in all likelihood, he is eventually going to lose the front end. Because, yeah, navy from both sides does not spell good things for the front base. However, if he techs up in the back from everything in this range right here, Cybern is not going to be able to touch it without a land assault. And if you can upgrade all of this to cap T3 and max out your economy in the rear end, you are going to be able to survive near cataclysmic events on the front end. There is a Fat Boy going down. That is going to help tremendously versus all of the Salems and other things that are coming in. And that is a whole lot of scouting. Many, many, many T1 scouts going over the entire map, marking everything. I love the strap bombers. There is T3 air online for Ryfun. He has got a couple of ASF out, approximately 5. Not a huge amount of interceptors, so for the moment at least, Turin Bar is far ahead on air. But he does have these few strap bombers out and about dealing with certain threats. There goes a T3 transport loaded to the gills with engineers. That's going to probably drop out in the corner here and try to build a little bit of navy. And is that? Yes, it is. That is a Monkey Lord that I did not even notice. Engaging the long guns. And start hitting some of those engineers out on the edges of this base. Something that people underestimate all the time is the power of those guns. Combined, they have, I believe, a little over 500 DPS, something like that. They do have a huge, huge range. You're able to vet the Monkey Lord pretty effectively just by staying out at long gun range and hitting things from afar. Percival landing a single shot before it dies horribly to the Mazer. And that Monkey Lord is going to start eating through this base. There are a lot of Percivals online. If he were to just focus fire, look at the health impact just from a single volley from those groups. If he would have focus fired every single one of those, he could have killed that Monkey Lord in 2 volleys, I think. barely losing any Percivals, but nonetheless, there goes the Monkey Lord, and there are not enough bricks and loyalists back there, I think, to kill off that group of Percivals. T1 bombers coming in, doing horrible, horrible things to the clumps of T1 engineers, feeding that air factory with build power. He's got to kill those things off before he loses more of them. Fat Boy is going to plink away at them, capable of dropping a T1 bomber anyway in about 4 shots. That's not such bad AA, is it? 4 shots to kill a T1 bomber from a T4 unit. I think we all know how the mass efficiency ratios on that work out. Everyone build Fat Boys for anti-air. Now it's the new meta. Strat bombers ripping new ones in these cap T2 mexes that exist on this side. UEF is going to be good for that. Kills the mass extractor and all 4 storage in one pass, whereas the Cybern Strat bomber cannot kill the T2 mechs in the middle. Leaves it with about 150 health surviving. That's a bit of a disadvantage, but I guess that's what you get in trade for the stealth. LOL, a monkey. Yes, a monkey. Did you not realize that you had a monkey all this time? There was a monkey that attacked the front base and very nearly killed it because you weren't paying attention, but your Percivals did your job for you and killed that Monkey Lord without you having to lift a lazy finger. Strat bombers still killing off these mass extractors. 59 kills. 59 freaking kills on a Strat bomber. About to be 62. Maybe 63. It is 63. But this may be the end of air control for Turin Bar. He lost a couple of ASF to the Interceptor clumps. Now ASF are moving in to kill off that Strat bomber. The Strat bomber anyway is definitely going to die. And then it is ASF on ASF, but it was a little it was not an advantageous situation. Let me say that. Is disadvantageous a word? I think it is. It should be if it's not. I'm going to put it in Brink's dictionary. Turin Bar did come out ahead on that, but he did lose quite a few of his ASF. On the south side, T1 bomber still a problem. Ryfun not giving up on the damage potential of the T1 bomber. Percival's moving forward. I know that Percivals are slow. I know that they walk at a painful pace, but they're still faster than a Salem. They'll be able to catch up to them quite easily before the majority of them get into the water. We've got 2 escaping and another one just now hitting the beach. Kaboom! Dying 1 per volley just about. Percivals with that 1400 damage front load. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. There's the Fat Boy trying to fend off all of these naval units and doing a pretty dang good job, if I do say so myself. Looks like he was attack ordered on something that went far away from the shore. Dragged the Fat Boy into the water, but he is going to survive quite handily and start eliminating all of those naval units. Strat bombers helping out just a little bit there, and engineers already moving out into the water to establish a naval presence yet again and try to get all of that reclaim. I know that you need to get that reclaim. Turin Bar being hit by a Salem, but 2 torpedo defenses are going to eat away at that health rather quickly. Turin Bar fleeing the scene, trying to get out of the water. There's a Strat bomber for Ryfun as well now. Torpedo snipe would be a terrible, terrible way to end this game. It really, really would. Let's check in on the reclaim numbers. Turin Bar sitting on a very healthy mass storage bar with 80,000 reclaim, 10k power income. On the other side, 97,000 reclaim. Ryfun taking a near 20k lead on that with 17k power ahead. But the thing to remember about that is that T3 Air holds a disproportionate sway over the scoreboard. So the fact that Turin Bar has killed a lot of ASF, has built a lot of ASF, and currently holds air control numbers, then his score is going to be a fair bit higher than his opponent's. 438 to 408. Not super far ahead, but enough. There is another megalith coming up. I was about to say another Monkey Lord, but it is a megalith, and it is the first one, so it is not another. There's a megalith coming up the middle. How's that? There we go. I can English just fine, folks. It is going to start tearing a hole through the middle until it turns around and flees. It probably sees that Fat Boy coming and he does not want to risk it. Is he going to go through the water? Nope, he is going to turn around and come back. and go through the front end. Loads of frigates coming up from these stealthily built factories to the side. They're going to start wiping out the build power on the back end. I say that they were stealthily built, but they were scouted when they first got dropped. So Ryfun knew that they were there the entire time, just could not necessarily deal with them very well. This is a Mexican standoff if ever I've seen one. Nope! Intel is up, and Fatboy is firing away. Megalith taking damage as long as it stands there without returning a single bit of it. So, now we've reached the point where I think we've got a bit of a deadlock. We've got 359 versus 235 income, but Ryfun has a substantial lead in income, or in reclaim, I should say. And he does have the lead in power. He might just go Telemazer. Maybe not. Who knows? We'll have to see what the rest of this game holds for us. And at the moment, we've got one Navy securely held by Ryfun and one Navy very nearly won for Turin Bar. And the front is, I think, closer to a deadlock than any other portion of this game. Although that Megalith is not looking very healthy at the moment, that Fat Boy definitely paying for itself. 53 kills, 65 vet points on that Fat Boy, and it just chalked up a Megalith to its name. Air control may have just been lost. We'll check in just a minute to see if there's any ASF anywhere else on the map. The answer to that question would be no. There is a single one down here that just got built. So the torpedo bombers are going to hold free reign over this group of frigates. Maybe, just maybe, a cruiser will be built that will be able to save this Navy from certain doom. But for now, those factories are going to stay online, and a great quantity of frigates are going to give up their lives today to the threat that is the T2 torpedo bomber. This is the everlasting cycle of air control, because you build anti-air units, you build ASF until you gain air control, and then as soon as you gain air control, you start building combat units. Since you're building combat units, you're not building ASF, and the other person is building ASF because they just lost all theirs. So inevitably, you get this seesaw motion where you have air control changing back and forth between the players as more and more combat units keep getting built until somebody gets up to a critical mass where they can snipe that ACU. This ACU is still sitting here in the middle. I don't think Turin Bar has any idea that he is there. Although there, a destroyer just scouted that commander. He now knows where the ACU is. This game started front versus front, and basically Ryfun has not moved from that position. Whereas Turin Bar has retreated nearly to the back of the map. He is definitely down at the beach position. He was in firm air position territory. He is now moving up just a little bit for unknown reasons. So many torpedo bombers, and that's going to be a bit of a bad turn for both players, honestly. That was a terrible entrance and a terrible recovery, and now Turin Bar is going to lose all of his ASF yet again. A little bit too much to focus on there, bud? Maybe just a little. Fat Boy using its air pad to recharge an interceptor. Some people forget that that is there. There is an air pad, 2 of them in fact, on the top of the Fat Boy. It can recharge aircraft quite quickly. Very handy tool to use if you have something that you need to recharge, or you can just set the Fat Boy out in the middle of nowhere with ASF patrolling overhead to guard it, and the ASF will automatically go back and heal and refuel. Works out well for everybody. Team 1 bombers patrolling this side, not getting a whole lot done, but maybe a little bit of area denial is not a bad thing. The Navy offshore is definitely too much for those sons of guns to handle, and I spy another Monkey Lord. It is moving towards the south side. I'm getting the distinct impression that Ryfun has decided he is going to go for an ACU snipe. He has scouted the ACU. He's got super great intel. I love the scouting that Ryfun is doing. And he sees that commander down there. He knows where it's at, and he's going to try to peg it with a Monkey Lord in order to win this game. He's got to do something relatively soon because Turin Bar is only getting further ahead in economy. At the moment, Ryfun is walking back to a position on the beach. I do hope that he makes it. Let's check in on the numbers real quick. 148,000 reclaim versus 127,000 reclaim. That is mostly thanks to the Monkey Lord wreck up front, and I imagine he is going to be reclaiming the megalith, wherever that thing went. Alright. Landfall for the Monkey Lord. And Turambar overcharged it to death. You know what? That's fair. That is fitting. He had a shield. He had the gun upgrade. He had T3 for extra health. He had a couple of Ravagers. And he had a destroyer that was hitting it with some fire, along with a couple of T2 gunships. And he was able to kill that son of a gun without taking too much damage. Well done, good sir. Well done. And now he'll have something else to reclaim. I think we might have seen a distinct flip in the direction that this game is headed. But then again, Ryfun does still have air control. He's got quite the good little number of ASF. Actually, there may be as many over there. Let's go take a look at the numbers here. Gonna be 32 ASF versus 35. So the numbers are reasonably close, slight advantage Ryfun, but Ryfun does have some of his ASF out of place. Batboy still sitting on the front line, camping it out. Ryfun upgrading laser. Well, he is going to go for it. He is going to try at least for the tie. Of course, you don't have to go directly for the ACU with the teleport laser. That is something that I think a lot of people forget. You can teleport into critical infrastructure. You can teleport into water nearby and build a T4. You can teleport into a completely unoccupied area and build TML. It doesn't really matter where you teleport as long as you kill something. That something can be critical and not be an ACU. T1 point defense going down. It appears that Turambar does have some inkling of what's going on. Let's see. He's got no intel on that side. Although I imagine at 51 minutes into the game, he's probably just assuming that at some point very, very soon there's going to be a telemaser attempt. You have to assume that when your verse is a Cybern commander. Another thing that he could have scouted is the fact that there's quite a substantial number of P-gens on this side. Maybe he's thinking, hey, it's a last-ditch effort for the tie. Let's let him go for it. 51 minutes in. What all have we got? I see a battleship. I see... Oh, Ryfun. Sorry, I have to go. Ah, no. Well played. Does that mean he's going to leave? No, he's going to go. You know what, though? I think that we had enough of this game to see which way it was going to go. Teleporter canceled and Control K. It is only slightly anticlimactic, folks, because the teleporter would not have worked. At best, at absolute best, he would have gotten a draw. And I doubt that he could have gotten a draw because there are a couple of Ravagers, many T1 point defense, couple of shields, different things happening here that would have prevented that telemaser from working. And as far as map control and economy goes, I think we can all agree that Turambar turned that son of a gun around and won this game by sheer overwhelming force. I was not expecting that at the start. The sheer mass of T1 coming across from Ryfun was terrifying. I probably would have given up at that point because there were simply so many Mantis coming across that land bridge. He lost his foothold on the front, lost a good portion of infrastructure, and continually had his ACU at about half health, desperately trying to beat those back, along with losing his sides a couple of times. But man, did he come back. Came back with a vengeance. T3 mechs is all over the place, got his economy, got a navy, and won the freaking game. Good job, Turambar. Kudos to you on that victory, and well played, Ryfun. Damn good early rush. Alrighty, folks, that is going to wrap it up for this game. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.